What is happening in Pakistan? Is Pakistan on the brink of civil war? Is it on the brink of collapse and disintegration? And why has this situation occurred? What's going to happen next? What should the world anticipate? What should India anticipate? And my Indian viewers will want to know whether this is the right time for India to retake Pakistan occupied Kashmir. So let's analyze the situation. Let's break it down and try to gaze into the crystal ball and try to understand what could possibly happen next. So what's happened? What's happened is that Imran Khan, the former Pakistan Prime Minister, has been arrested. It was a very public arrest. They made a big spectacle of it. They could have arrested him quietly. They could have done it in the night, but they chose to arrest him in a very public manner. They sent 100 of these, I don't know how many soldiers they sent, stormtroopers, they look like from Star Wars, and they arrested him in a very public manner. This obviously was done by the Pakistan military, not the Pakistan government. There is no Pakistan government. The government is only in name, as we know. It's a nominal government. The real power in Pakistan is the Pakistani military. So Imran Khan was arrested by the Pakistani military. It's been what we would call a political arrest. The charges are corruption and terrorism and maybe treason, etc. Well, corruption, every Pakistani politician is corrupt. The army is the biggest source of corruption in Pakistan. When it comes to terrorism, the army is what creates terrorism. You know the slogan in Pakistan, jiske ye jo dehshat gardi hai, iske piche vardi hai. The populace of Pakistan knows that it's the army that's the root cause and the source of terrorism. But they have charged Imran Khan with terrorism. And maybe there's treason as well. You know, you can put any kind of a whole cocktail of charges on your political opponent. So this is a political arrest. And for the first 24 hours or so, there were rumors on social media that Imran Khan may have been killed, perhaps. Was he alive? Was he dead? That was the speculation. There was speculation that he was being tortured. It doesn't look like he is dead. It looks like he's most likely in detention somewhere, maybe Islamabad, maybe Rawalpindi, somewhere there. So that's what has happened. He was arrested on the 9th of May. Now let's understand the history behind this. So Imran Khan, as we know, is a former cricketer. He was the captain of the Pakistani cricket team. He is the only World Cup winning captain that the Pakistanis have had. He is widely admired in Pakistan for his sporting achievements. So he became the Prime Minister of Pakistan in August of 2018. His party is the is the PTI, Tehreek-e-Insaf or something like that. That's what it's called. Now, as we will all know, Pakistani prime ministers have no real power. It's just a ceremonial position. Pakistani prime ministers are military puppets. They are marionettes of the military. So Imran Khan was no exception. He was a military puppet. And that's the deal that every prime minister makes with the devil, that is the Pakistani military. So Imran Khan became the prime minister of Pakistan in August 2018. And then he kind of went rogue. What do I mean by that? He tried to craft an independent, multilateral foreign policy. He's always been an independent-minded person. We know very well how much he admires India's Modi-Jaishankar foreign policy. He has made a point of saying it in public. He's even played videos of either Prime Minister Modi or Dr. Jaishankar making certain statements. And he uses that as an example of how a foreign policy ought to be implemented. So that's the kind of foreign policy he also kind of tried to craft, a strong, independent, nation-first, multi-aligned, multipolar foreign policy. That's what India follows. That's what he tried to emulate. So Imran Khan engaged with various nations, China, the US, Turkey, even Russia. So that's what it did. And he tried to emulate the Turkish leader Erdogan, and kind of reform Pakistan in a way along those lines. Obviously, he was not very successful at all because everything is done. I mean, then the military controls the nation, and he really could not achieve much at all as prime minister. Now, what happened is that in February 2022, on 24 February 2022, Imran Khan was in Moscow. He reached there the day before, and he met Vladimir Putin, Russia's president, a few hours after the Ukraine invasion was launched. So that the Ukraine invasion the special military operation, that's what the Russians call it, in Ukraine, that kind of overshadowed totally Imran Khan's visit to Moscow. Imran Khan later refused to condemn the Ukraine invasion. That was kind of the last straw for the forces that control the Pakistani military. And on the 8th of March 2022, apparently a secret diplomatic cable was sent from the US urging action to be taken against Imran Khan, apparently in a coup in Pakistan. And then the die was cast, and in April, Imran Khan was ousted from the Prime Minister's post in a so-called no confidence motion in the parliament. So that was the end of his tenure as Pakistan's Prime Minister, and he's been politically active since his ouster. In November 22, there was apparently an assassination attempt on Imran Khan. He survived that and so on. And he is still reasonably popular, maybe very popular in Pakistan, especially among the supporters of his political party, the PTI. So that's the background. So he was arrested on the 9th of May. We don't quite know what his whereabouts are, but what has the public response been? All hell broke loose the moment Imran Khan was arrested. The very public arrest evoked very strong reactions in Pakistan. There has been rioting, arson, all kinds of chaos and turmoil in Pakistan, vandalism of public property, vandalism especially of military and army property. They have attacked ISI offices. The ISI is the secret intelligence agency of Pakistan. The protesters have attacked military offices, the residences of Pakistani military generals. And there was complete chaos essentially on the night of the arrest, and there is still a lot of all of this rioting, etc., happening in Pakistan right now. The military has responded with indiscriminate firing on the protesters, on the rioters. There's been lots of casualties. You can see the videos all over social media. They have shut down the internet. The social media is down. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, etc., all of that is down. Maybe mobile services are also down. So for the first 24 hours or so, the military was kind of invisible. The top leadership did not make much of a statement, at least for the first 12 hours or so. The so-called Prime Minister of Pakistan, Mr. Shahbaz Sharif, was also very quiet, very silent, kind of absent. Then he made a statement, a strong statement condemning what's happening. The military also made a very strong statement. So that's been the response thus far. Right now, there is still chaos and turmoil in Pakistan. What about the international response? Well, there has not been much of an international response. There's certainly been no condemnation of the indiscriminate firing at protesters that the military has done. There has been absolutely no condemnation from the West of these human rights violations, nothing significant. So the international response has been kind of muted, and no strong statements coming from anywhere else. The question is, what is the outlook for Pakistan? Is Pakistan on the brink of civil war? Is it already in the throes of a civil war? And will Pakistan disintegrate? That's a real question. Well, my assessment is that Pakistan is not going to disintegrate as a result of what's happening right now. The Pakistani military is just too strong. It's too powerful. It controls the entire nation. It owns the entire nation of Pakistan. In most nations, the nation has an army. In Pakistan, the army has the nation. It owns the nation. So the Pakistani military kind of knew what was going to happen. They engineered the situation in a very specific manner. They first of all made a very public spectacle of the arrest of Imran Khan, and they clearly wanted a very specific reaction from his supporters, so that they could respond then in specific ways. So the army's response is going to be a long-term response. The army, what they did was they allowed about 24 hours of this complete chaos and this rampage in Pakistan by the supporters of the PTI party, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. They allowed the PTI supporters and the protesters to let off steam. It acted like kind of like a pressure release valve. They allowed them to attack military installations, the ISI office. They allowed them to vandalize military memorials to soldiers who fought India, that sort of thing. Looks like they wanted the situation to deteriorate to a certain extent, so that they could then step in, do a crackdown, and then also justify the crackdown. Right? So what's happening right now is that the army, the military, is policing. It's taken over police duties in the major cities of Pakistan. The police, I don't know where they are. They may also be on the scene, but it's the military that's in firm control right now, or at least some control right now. They are policing the major cities of Pakistan. And there are crackdowns happening right now on the citizenry of Pakistan. The people who support Imran Khan, especially, right? This is happening more or less throughout Pakistan. What we have also seen is that the Pakistani people, the Awam, the Janta of Pakistan, the citizens have lost trust in the army. At least significant portions of the populace, they have lost trust in the army. They call this a terrorist army, right? They say that the Pakistani army is behind the terror, the dahshatgardi that you find all across Pakistan. So we see that the people of Pakistan are openly displaying, demonstrating their contempt and their dislike for the Pakistani army, which is a significant turning point. We haven't really seen that so openly out there in the public until now. What could happen now is that the PTI, Imran Khan's party, will most likely be accused of being anti-Pakistan, anti-national. They may even along the way be accused of having links with India, especially because of these attacks on military installations, on the residences of generals, on the ISI office, which all is out there on social media. So the political party could be accused of having links with India and with anti-Pakistan forces. We know that they mean India by that, right? So in the long run, this situation will actually allow the military to consolidate power, right? And the real reason why Pakistan will not disintegrate right now in the short term to medium term, is because Pakistan is too important geopolitically. We have to understand that the geography of Pakistan is the key to its importance. Pakistan is not a great producer of anything valuable for the world. It's actually the world's center of terrorism, but it's extremely important geopolitically. Pakistan was created to cut Russia's access off from the warm waters of the Southern Ocean, the Indian Ocean. Russia craves access to the warm waters of the Indian Ocean, and Pakistan was custom built to cut Russia's access off from the Indian Ocean. And also the other purpose that Pakistan serves, because of its geography, is that it denies India its historic and traditional access to Central Asia and via Central Asia to Europe, right? So Pakistan became, so ever since Pakistan was created artificially, it's an artificial nation, it has essentially served as a pawn in a bigger geopolitical game. It's always taken a pro-West stance. Its army, its armed forces it's a mercenary army. They will do whatever their paymasters tell them to do. So they have always supported the West for most of their history after 1947, 1948. Pakistan became specifically important after the 1979 Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. The Americans used Pakistani, they used the Pakistani army to train the Mujahideen who were fighting the Soviet Union. Lots of money was injected into the Pakistani military. They were given whatever arms and ammunition and weapon systems they wanted, F-16s, whatever, right? After the invasion eventually ended, I think in 1989, these Mujahideen, these terrorists were routed into Kashmir. Even before that, the Pakistani terrorism was being funded by, against India. Pakistani terrorism against India was being funded by the United States. We know that the US funded Pakistani terrorist activities in India for decades. Then Pakistan also became the staging ground for the 2001 US invasion of Afghanistan. So that's again when Pakistan was especially important for the US. Then we had the 2008 Mumbai terror attacks, which were done by Pakistan and using Pakistani terrorists. After that, the US support for Pakistan kind of petered down for some time, and in the 2010s, Pakistan was on China's payroll. So in the 2010s, you had this embrace between Pakistan and China. Pakistan became a Chinese client state for a decade or so, a Chinese vassal. They called themselves the Iron Brothers. Yeah. And then we had the ouster of Imran Khan, which happened just a year or so, year and a half ago. And that essentially signified Pakistan going back into the US fold. So the Pakistani nation is now very much, once again, a US client state. It's a US vassal state. And the purpose, this serves a twofold purpose. First of all, to counter China, because now the US is focusing very strongly on China. It started with President Trump's trade war on China, but now the anti-China activities are really intensifying from the US perspective, and one can understand why they do it. They see China as a major threat, and they want to ensure that the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, all these things don't materialize. So that's one reason. The other reason is that now, finally, after decades of mediocrity, India is rising as a major world power, and the only economy that is projected to surpass the US in the 21st century is India. China is no longer in a position to do that because of a variety of factors. So India is now being regarded by the US as a long-term adversary or a long-term competitor. India is not a very dangerous nation by any sense, from any perspective, in 2023. India has a $3.5 trillion economy and a moderate military, which can take care of its borders, and that's all. But India is growing. In 20 years' time, India could be a $10 trillion economy, and it would have a much larger economic and military footprint. So this is the time that the US thinks is right to start countering India. And Pakistan is obviously a great tool for doing that. So the US is using Pakistan as a hedge against China as well as India. So Pakistan is extremely important for the US, for the West, and they will not allow it to disintegrate. So what's going to happen next? What should the world anticipate? What should India anticipate? So what's going to happen now is that the army is actually going to consolidate power in Pakistan. The nation is permanently in crisis. It's a cash-strapped nation. It's near bankrupt. There is, like I said, a huge loss of confidence among the populace towards the Pakistani army. What we could see is that if the crisis escalates, see, the economic crisis is there, it's permanent. They are always dependent on doles from the World Bank, the IMF, from China in the past, maybe from the US in the future. The nation is always on the brink of economic collapse, but it's not quite collapsing. So if the situation deteriorates, if there is more and more, let's say, an outpouring of anger against the army, if the army finds itself in a tight corner under extreme pressure, they will instigate trouble with India. They will at least attempt to launch major terror attacks in the Kashmir Valley and in other parts of India. They will try to ratchet up the tensions with India so that there will be a military confrontation of some kind, maybe just lots of firing across the border and all that. And once that happens, it will bring the Pakistani populace back on the army's side because they are now facing an existential threat. That's what the army will say. So if the situation deteriorates, you can expect the Pakistanis to try to instigate trouble with India. That's what we can anticipate in the short term, the next 3 to 6 to 12 months. That's something that could very much happen. So the Indian government obviously will anticipate this and they will be prepared for that. But this is something we could be seeing perhaps in the coming months. Perhaps. I hope it doesn't happen. It could happen. Yeah. Long term, what we can see, if we look at the long term prospects of Pakistan, Pakistan is not a viable nation in the long term. It's an artificial nation that was created to serve external geopolitical interests. What we are seeing right now in the past 2-3 decades in Pakistan, we are witnessing increasing intra-ethnic conflict between the various ethnicities in Pakistan. The Punjabis dominate the entire nation. The Balochis are horribly exploited. The Pashtuns want to reintegrate their homeland with Afghanistan. The Sindhis are disenfranchised. The Kashmiris, the Gilgit, the Baltistanis are horribly exploited and marginalized and terrorized. So there is this tremendous increasing intra-ethnic conflict in Pakistan. There is tremendous radicalization that's been happening since the 1980s. There is a lot of internal discontent that is growing, increasing internal discontent. The populace of the nation increasingly mistrusts the army. The army is synonymous with terror. It terrorizes and exploits the people of various provinces of Pakistan. The people are starving. The army generals, on the other hand, live lives of staggering luxury. Their families live abroad. If you look at the houses and residences of various the top Pakistani generals, they live in they have an incredibly lavish lifestyle that puts the kind of luxuries they have in their houses, in their homes. They put the house of the Indian Prime Minister and President to you can't compare the two. That's how luxurious their homes are. So the army, the military enjoys the fruits of everything the Pakistani nation has, and the people are starving, and the people are living in poverty. The Pakistani economy has no future. It's doomed. The nation is perpetually surviving on handouts from the World Bank, IMF, China, the US, all that. So in the long term, the nation is not viable. Right now, Pakistan is on the brink of becoming a nation comparable to Yemen or Somalia or Sudan, and the nation will eventually disintegrate. The question is, when will the nation disintegrate, and what is going to be the trigger for that disintegration? What's going to be the spark that sets off the eventual disintegration of the nation? And to understand that, we have to understand that the only thing that is holding Pakistan together is the Pakistani military. So eventually, whenever the collapse happens, it's going to be triggered off with something that happens in the military. Maybe a schism in the military, maybe a coup, or maybe the military feeling, maybe some general feeling, the top general perhaps feeling that Pakistan is no longer, there's no long-term future in Pakistan. So whatever causes the collapse of Pakistan eventually, it's going to start from the Pakistani military. So that is the situation right now. Pakistan is maybe on the brink of civil war, but definitely not on the brink of imminent disintegration and collapse. The long-term future isn't great for Pakistan. As you all know, I don't have any ill will towards the people of Pakistan, but the nation is a terrorist nation, and eventually, like I say, it's a temporary nation. Eventually, it will collapse. The question is when. I would give it 3 to 5 years, perhaps, this collapse. So let's see how it goes. Yeah, and we're gonna keep an eye. We're gonna keep an eye on the situation. We're gonna keep following the situation, and yeah. So that's it for me for today, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.